Hey everybody, it's Mark Schultz here, and we're live with another edition of Recovery in Aviation. We're really excited to be presenting a positive message of recovery in aviation, and we're going to have some really good discussions and interviews here with you today. And first thing I want to say is, remember, this is a live broadcast, and I want to ask you, if you would, to please share this live stream. You share it out on your LinkedIn so that we can get the maximum amount of people that are able to watch this program here today. And remember, this program is live, and so there will be a Q&A session today with our panel participants, and I want to invite you to engage and join in on the conversation. And so I want to look forward to what we're doing here today, and I'm going to bring in our next guest here today, and my co-host, actually. I have Larry Little with me. Larry, how are you this morning?
Hey, Mark. Hey, Mark. Good morning, and thanks for the opportunity to join you this morning. Another session, and looking forward to the recovery in our industry.
Yeah, and actually, I said Larry's a guest, but Larry isn't really a guest. Larry's a regular. Larry is my actual
It's okay.
co-host.
I can be a guest this morning, Mark.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So, things are live, and what comes out of your mouth, you never really know. But, Larry and I we're very excited to work together to bring a positive message in aviation, and we are focusing on recovery. And because there's so much, that's happening out there today in the industry, like there's airplanes that are parked, and a lot of downtime, and load factors are down, and so we want to be bringing a positive message. And so today, what we're going to talk about is what's happening in the industry, in the areas that we're interviewing, and then as well we're going to talk about what you and your business can do, and how you can be successful in recovery within your business, and what are the real key factors to success. And so,
Mark, you're right. This is really about looking forward, not looking back, but looking forward to see, what are people doing in the industry to recover. I had the opportunity this morning to read a Forbes article about how, in Asia, travel is happening domestically again. In Europe, travel is happening as well. I read that you can fly from London to Lisbon for 13 pounds. On yours there. So, right. So airlines are doing all sorts of things to get people flying again, and that's really
how is that even possible? Yeah, right. Yeah. So as we jump forward here in the program, again, share this live stream and join in on our conversations with us here today. And I want to introduce our special guest here today. We have an edition here today of Recovery in Aviation, and we have a special guest here today, and it's Max Alexander. Max, welcome on the program here today.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, it's great. Max is the co-founder of a company called Ditto. And Max, maybe you want to just tell us a quick little snippet of who your company is and what you do before we get into some of the discussion together.
Sure. So Ditto actually got into the aviation space by pretty much accident. We're a software developer kit, meaning that you would embed us into an existing app of yours. So for aviation, that might be for cabin crew or for your passengers or your maintenance workers, even pilots. And these apps will suddenly be able to synchronize information in real time with each other without any internet connectivity. Internet's a huge problem at the airports and in the aviation space. But now these mobile phones are completely free from relying on internet connectivity, and they can actually start talking to each other. So you can build a whole host of use cases. So that's what we really focus on.
Max, I was really excited to introduce to your new technology here, or your technology within the last few days. My experience in the industry, you're solving a real problem that's cost airlines a lot of money. So it's really fun to be able to talk about it this morning.
Yeah. Well, one of the challenges that we have is, with the marketplace, shifting, and we don't really exactly know what's going on in the marketplace today. I mean, there's so many demands on what's happening, and we're seeing things like changes in policies and procedures and changes in practices. And, we're seeing, cabin crew that are wearing masks, and we're seeing, passengers that are wearing masks. I mean, Larry and Max, what are some of the things that you guys are seeing happening out there in the industry today that's really, affecting operations out there today?
Well, Mark, it's not just the crew that's wearing the mask. I mean, it was just JetBlue just this week said, all passengers must wear masks, and I think we're going to see that, across the industry. Just one little anecdote I saw in the newspaper this morning that someone almost got kicked off a flight because they didn't want to wear a mask.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I saw that American and United joined in on that policy.
Yeah.
And I think all of them are doing it now, Yeah.
Exactly. Sorry,
go ahead. Well, I was going to say, I failed to mention that Max, his company is actually based in San Francisco, California. And so, United, that's one of their hubs out there. But Max, what are you kind of seeing happening, in California today surrounding you guys out there?
Well, in the Bay Area, it's a little abnormal because I think we only reported 9 cases. So for the city in general, it's very abnormal. You're probably talking to the one place in the world where the vast majority of people can work from home. So there's not a real disruption because everyone is in tech. So we've been used to Slacking and video conferencing for a long time, way before this was happening. So this almost feels like home in a way. But, there are a lot of industries out there, like, for example, restaurants and small businesses that can't rely on that. We're seeing some impacts over there, like, for example, Lyft and Uber, no demand to go anywhere inside the city. So you see a massive drop off there. So, but overall, we're trending towards the remote thing.
Yeah, there's a big impact to businesses that shift. We're seeing a lot of other policies and procedures and things that are happening, people have to be comfortable that they're getting on an airplane that's safe. And one of the ways that the airplanes are going to be safe is if they're clean, and Larry, I think you originally showed me this video, I think about a week ago, that Delta put out. What do you think about it?
Well, I thought this video was really great. It's not only does it kind of show what Delta's doing, but it's a great marketing tool as well, so people could feel more comfortable getting back on an airplane. And since this Delta Clean brand came out, you're seeing things from pretty much every airline reiterating what they're doing on all their flights, on a daily basis to keep it clean. And I think that's really applicable to what we're talking about today in terms of the Ditto technology too, in terms of not having to touch things.
Yeah, we're really finding that that people have to be confident that when they're getting into an aircraft, that it's a safe environment, and so everybody's having to adjust to their procedures and their practices in order to be able to make sure that the flying public has confidence that things are safe and that they can feel good about what's happening. One of the other things that I'm finding is that the market is shifting, and as we begin to talk about businesses more specifically, we're finding that the services that are being offered in the industry, are shifting. And like one good example is that we're seeing there's a lot of demand for cargo right now. So we all know that the passenger travel has been down because of stay-at-home orders, but there's been some tremendous increases in traffic or in cargo traffic all around the world. I mean, just yesterday I read in the news that Saudi, broke some records with the amount of cargo that they flew, in one single airplane. And so, have you guys seen any changes in the marketplace, like shifts in services and products that are needed out there in the industry today?
I mean, personally, from my end, we do definitely see a lot more cargo happening because, there's no retail. So all the retail has to be happening online. And therefore, it's putting a tremendous pressure on shipping things with the existing cargo supply chain. And so the current regular passenger aviation industry could take over for this for sure. So that means a lot of these seats have to be outfitted again. They're at this position where they can be turned over. So you're probably going to see a lot of new technology where it comes into place where you probably can take these seats out very, very quickly and very modularly. If we are starting to enter into a hybrid world where only the first half of the rows might be passengers, but then everything in the back might be boxes, stuff like that. So that's what we're seeing is more consideration. People might be seeing this more often where you get into a plane and then the back of it is a bunch of crates. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, hey, Mark, let me just say this. That is a really beautiful airplane. It's a really beautiful
It is,
airplane.
isn't it? Yeah, I know that.
You know, but it's not only
747,
cargo. I
the
think.
Intercontinental. That's a beautiful airplane, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
But you know, it's not just cargo. I think there's also going to be a change in small airplanes and regionals and even business jets, that people are going to be more open to flying, you know, a smaller airplane at point to point rather than you know, going and flying in a wide body airplane with a bunch of people.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Max. Yep.
So when it comes to digital transformation, this like pandemic and the lockdowns and everything have really spiked. It just shows how important digital transformation is. A lot of the processes of these airlines are still done by paper. You know, a lot of electronic defect logs, for example, in a lot of planes are being done with like a clipboard. That's not going to be happening anytime soon. There's just a massive push towards going to iPads to do almost everything. Right. So all these things that are not streamlined are putting a lot of costs onto the airline. But if you start investing right now, yes, it's expensive to actually invest in these applications, but it's showing you how resilient you can be. So it's going to work great when the economy is very good, but it's going to save you a ton of money when the economy is doing poorly. That's the elasticity of software.
You know, Max, you're just so spot on. And Mark and I have talked a lot about digital transformation, and we've been trying to give this message to airlines for a long, long time. And it's always been about a business case. And across the value stream, could you close the business case? And that's the case today, obviously, but it's also about personal safety. That's the other dynamic that's different now than maybe in the past to really make this transformation.
Well, you know, so as far as digital is concerned, then, you know, Max, how is that? How are the changes in the industry affecting maybe your business specifically? I mean, how's it affected the people, or how's it affected, you know, your customers? Or tell us some of the factors that have driven down into your business, you know, that have affected you as a result of all of this.
So from our standpoint, we sell to use cases like cabin crew, the maintenance and hangar use cases, obviously with the with our syncing platform. In Asia, we're seeing a lot more confidence. I think they see the light at the end of the tunnel. They're much more calm about this. They've gone through pandemics like this before. America is doing much better than, say, Europe. So we're giving Europe some time to figure out when they will start reinvesting in their digital strategies. So it's kind of compartmentalized. You can't really say it as an industry as a whole. There's just some regional geographics that are doing better than others in terms of their own confidence. Even if the airline does have money to last for a while, they're just scared, right? They don't want to invest in anything. So we're just keeping relationships hot where things might be slower. But if there are opportunities right now, we're going full steam ahead with them.
Yeah,
okay,
well, right, Max. You know, everything I see, Asia and China are beginning to open up in terms of travel more. So do you know what the number one destination for people traveling in China is? The number one domestic destination is Wuhan.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Is it because people are really...
Yeah, and it surprised me. You know, I kind of did the research, like, and you know, for whatever reason, you know, maybe people have left there. But anyway, it's just interesting that Wuhan, the number one domestic location.
Well, definitely as confidence builds in different regions. And I think that's really interesting because we talk about how the market is shifting. We need to look at our products and services necessary, maybe, you know, in cargo, and how does, you know, when fleets are being grounded, how is that impacting spare parts? You know, do we need to shift our businesses to consider going after different fleet types, or do we need to shift and go after different, you know, different market spaces, maybe different geographical regions? And both of you guys are saying that those things are really, you know, becoming a reality.
Yeah, they really are. But Mark, maybe we should switch gears a little bit and let Max kind of talk to us about the technology that he's bringing to this to this issue, or this opportunity, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely, Max. So you have some products and services which are really helping in the industry and some other industries. You know, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So as I mentioned, you embed our technology inside of your existing application, and they'll be able to synchronize with each other. So what we are definitely seeing is hygiene becoming a big topic in the aviation industry. Think about it. If you go inside and you're trying to get a self-serve baggage tag, or get your boarding pass from a kiosk. A lot of people are touching that kiosk, and you didn't see people wipe down the kiosk that often. Maybe they never really did. And so that's going to cause a lot of worry. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be using the kiosk. The screen is just something that's a little nerve-wracking for people to touch. Why don't you just use your own mobile device, because that's probably where you have your boarding pass anyway, and synchronize with that kiosk without using any internet connection, right? So you don't have to worry about the Wi-Fi or your SIM card being ready. So that is one process where you can keep your hands to yourself, still stay within digital transformation, and touch less things that are commonly shared by other passengers and staff. Inside the airplane, a fantastic use case is all major airlines have cabin crew that have mobile devices, either almost effectively it's all iPhones or iPads. But now the seatback screens in these international flights are a big concern because people are touching them. You can see that Delta is saying that they have that Delta Clean where they're cleaning every single part of the seat. But you can imagine where the passenger would be able to order a meal off of their own phone instead of touching the same pamphlet, because it's kind of worrying that we're all touching the same piece of paper. Or, like you could also use it as a way to synchronize files and movies. So that could this mobile device is now your own mobile device is your own seatback screen, effectively. So it plays into a lot because you could actually innovate without having to rip the entire plane up again and make all that hardware refresh almost every 5 years, because the passengers are doing it themselves. They're just upgrading iPhones every single year.
Yeah, that's
I really
interesting.
like that graphic. It shows kind of the passenger experience, but for me, I sort of jump into the maintenance world, and just about every mechanic has an iPad that he's using, and if we could connect all those iPads easily together, you would have a touch-free environment in the hangar as well, or keep your hands to yourself. I think I really like that.
Yeah.
In the hangar as well. I know the last thing a mechanic wants to do probably in today's world is pick up a job card that's been handled by a bunch of different people that he has no idea.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Max. Yep.
So when we were talking about the whole cargo use cases, you can see a lot of things on LinkedIn where people are taking pictures of them taking the seats out. The seats with the seatback screens are not just seats any longer. There's all these wires and stuff, right? So as the aviation industry switches into a hybrid of cargo and passenger, you have to be able to put these seats in very quickly and then take them out as fast as possible. All those wires are going to make this very, very difficult. So we suspect that most airlines will evaluate this and say, okay, if we have to put seats in and out, depending on like how the aviation industry goes through ups and downs, we should probably invest in the ones that are much more lighter on the plane, as well as less heavy handed with all these wires being interconnected through the base of it.
Yeah, I think we've all been on airplanes recently where the the IFE, the in-flight entertainment, is your own personal device, and there's nothing there in front of you. And the international carriers and the long haul aircraft, they all usually have very sophisticated IFE. And I honestly, all the international traveling that I've done, it does make a big difference when you have big screens and a lot of functionality. And so there's going to be a place for each of these at this point in time. But Max, you're absolutely right. Is having less complexity and being able to lower the cost of the equipment of the seats in the IFE in the aircraft is really going to make a big difference. And it's interesting that you could have this kind of synchronization technology that would be able to help support that. Hey, Larry, I wanted to ask a question real quick. Is everybody, for those of the viewers out there, they may not know that Larry comes from a long history of mobility at Boeing in the maintenance area. And how do you see this kind of technology playing into maintenance mobility? From your experience.
Well, Mark, we talked about that a little bit earlier in the broadcast here. Is just about every mechanic today has an iPad that he's using to access information or as a communication tool. But what we've seen is in a lot of airlines, that connectivity between devices in a hangar or at the airplane or in the airplane can be difficult and expensive at times. But we're going to continue to see airlines embrace a mobile device for to be able to do their job. You know, a mobile device becomes just a tool, just like any other tool that they use to maintain the airplane.
Yeah, and Max, can you tell us a little bit more about the technology, or the application of the technology? Just maybe give a little bit of a discussion about from your perspective what the advantages of this are.
Sure. So when I say it syncs without the internet, it actually uses so many different technologies that do not rely on the actual 4G or a stable modem to talk to the internet. So we use things like Bluetooth Low Energy, Wi-Fi Direct, Apple Wireless Direct, as well as the local area network, which is a wireless area network. These technologies, these underlying pipes for getting these devices to talk to each other are insanely hard. Actually, in the mobile devices, it's very, very buggy. So we wrap this all up with a very stable abstraction layer, as you can say. So you just write data to this, and you don't have to worry about the underlying infrastructure. We'll take care of all the security, all the encryption, and then it's a uniform way to communicate with each other. Actually, when we show people our demo, they go like, "Oh my God, did you jailbreak the phone?" Because every airline has tried this, and then they've given up because Bluetooth is notoriously hard. You have to be like a PhD in computer science to get anything to work. And that's not even building the app feature, right? So airlines should be focused really on building great user experiences for their cabin crew, their maintenance worker, and their passengers, and what have you, instead of worrying about the underlying pipe between the hood.
Hey, Max, I think you mentioned it, but could you just talk a little bit more about security? Because I think it's important in any airplane environment that you're not able to hack into someone else's device and be able to eventually maybe hack into the airplane.
Absolutely. So as you can see that these devices right now, they have encryption under the hood. So that means that if someone did say got access to the packets of data that you were sending out, it would just be a jarbled mess, right? So in order for Ditto to work, two or more instances that you're connecting with need to have the same certificate. And then that's how the devices know, oh, we're part of the same company or part of the same app. Now we can successfully transmit information. A very interesting tidbit is, a lot of people know Bluetooth. We use Bluetooth Low Energy, which is very different from Bluetooth Classic. It is not the same as the one, as the thing that is connecting your phone to your wireless earpiece, right? It's not the same. Bluetooth Low Energy is used for industrial use cases like sensors and IoT a lot, like things that might be warming up your car or remotely controlling something. That by default is unencrypted. So that framework, you have to implement the encryption yourself. Very, very bad thing to do unless you really know what you're doing. So we say, okay, don't worry about that. We'll take care of the encryption because we have all these engineers who are just passionate about that subject in general.
Cool.
Now, Max, where are you seeing the greatest, application in the industry of this kind of technology? And I'm sure that aviation, of course, it has a great use case, but are you seeing application elsewhere, other industries as well?
Well, the interesting thing is the virus doesn't care where it's at. So hygiene is definitely some place that's going to be on everyone's mind for anything social. So in San Francisco, there's always been a lot of solutions where you can just start Apple Paying, right? But a lot of kiosks at restaurants, they flip over like a Toast, an Android tablet or an iOS tablet, and they ask you to sign with your finger. We suspect that's not going to happen that often, because I went to a cafe the other day and I had to sign with my finger, and then there was a woman who wiped down the screen very diligently. That doesn't get you throughput inside of a restaurant. So in restaurants, we see a lot of use cases where they're really looking for our technology. We also see this big in the military, big in healthcare in general, because healthcares are also moving over to iOS devices because they're HIPAA compliant. Once you start putting a server in there, you have to get HIPAA compliance. But if the devices are talking to each other, you've actually saved yourself quite a lot of money, also improve the user experience, and also benefited from Hygiene. So any place where you're trying to get people to talk to each other in a deskless environment, because their mobile devices are now their desk, right? You can't say, hey, your deskless environment, it's gonna sometimes work and it's sometimes not. We make sure that it works in offline scenarios.
Yeah. And Max, the reason that I bring this up is that one of the things that we've been talking about is that, we need to reinvent our companies, and whether we're looking at demands within the aviation marketplace, or we're looking at opportunities where we might be able to, consider our technology in adjacent markets. It sounds like you're addressing not only aviation, but some adjacent markets as well.
Yes, absolutely. So like I mentioned, healthcare, cruise ships for the future as well, tourism, once all those things recover, but also industries that are flourishing right now, which is gaming, schools, education. Schools do have to get opened up at some point, maybe even with social distance, right? So our distance for allowing Ditto apps to sync with each other can keep you interactive while still being present with that person in the same room, but not getting too close where you're transmitting anything.
Yeah, and we're doing that in our business as well. I mean, we're looking at, how can we look at the marketplace, and how can we look at geographically and look at the products and services that are needed in the industry, and making adjustments to our business plan as well. I've moved into a few adjacent markets. I had some connections, in some adjacent markets in retail and also in healthcare. And so, we're doing some things as well. And I think that every business out there has to reevaluate themselves and say, if the market is adjusting, what are we going to do? I mean, I have this statement that I keep making is that my business will not be a casualty. I mean, I have to do what's necessary in order to be able to, make the business continue to be successful. And I love to make this analogy. Let me just tell you this, guys, is that I'm a pilot. And, the FARs say that as a pilot in command, I have the authority to make whatever decision is necessary to meet the extent of the emergency. All right. And it's because if this airplane is going to crash, I'm the pilot in command, and I have to make the adjustments necessary in order to be able to be successful in the business. And every one of our businesses needs to evaluate the circumstances, the environment around us, what's happening, what's growing, what's going down, and we need to make adjustments. And I applaud your business for diversifying and being in multiple, adjacent markets, because that's great technology that can be used in a lot of places. There's no question about that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Hey guys, as we kind of continue this discussion, I want to ask you: is that what other things should our listeners do in their businesses to be able to what are the factors for success in a business in all times, especially in hard times? What do you guys have thoughts on that for yourselves?
Well, Mark, it's kind of the foundation of what we're talking about here is leveraging digital transformation to be able to run your business safely. From an operational standpoint, safely from a personal health standpoint, and more efficiently from a financial standpoint. And I think those three factors are going to continue to be, what's the right word, more important, if you will, than they have in the past, and more interactive than they have in the past. And this ability for devices to be able to interact with each other is just really exciting. It's just amazing.
Yeah, critical cornerstones. Yeah.
Yeah, so if I had to give a recommendation for other startups or tech that's selling into the aviation industry, I would recommend a couple of things in order to hunker down through this entire scenario. One thing is to realize that relationships are key, right? Like most enterprise sales cycles in aviation are over 1 year, right? So make sure you keep those relationships hot. Don't go cold on anyone. Just ping in with them, check in with them, see how you can help them at all times, because they're in a position where they have to think creatively, and they may need to bounce back ideas back and forth. If a sales process is going underway, you may need to keep your pricing low or somewhat creative, because suddenly CFOs and C-levels are transformed, right? Before they were thinking all about growth. How do you grow? Now it's all about saving cost. Okay, so people think when I say saving costs, it doesn't mean that they're going to purchase anything from you anymore. That's not true. They may purchase something from you if it reduces costs, which is quite possible. People don't really think about that in a lot of sense. So make sure that your pitch is transforming from, we're going to get you more customers, because most people are going to be like, what customers right now? No, we're going to change your workflow. It's going to be moving from paper to digital, and it saves you this much money. Okay, now we're talking in terms of making a morally, ethical, and fiscally responsible purchase now at this point. So these are the two major things I would recommend in the aviation industry if you are selling into the space. You have to be very helpful, and everyone's looking for help in terms of reducing cost.
Max, that's really insightful because you're right. It's not a 1 month sales cycle. It's a year or more on a lot of these software products because it's a regulated industry. Sometimes it takes a lot of work and process change to implement new solutions. But staying in touch with your customers, you said it. Mark, last time when we were talking to Thanos, he talked about making sure customer care is foundational to weather the storm or weather this hibernation.
Yeah, totally.
Hey, Mark, from my end, it's a little technical difficulty. I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Looks like we might have lost the mic for a minute there. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Awesome. Thanks for pointing that out. Hey, guys, in our business, we need to look around us, and we need to take a look at the factors that are changing around us. We need to take a look at the geography, the products. We need to look at what the demands are around us. And Max, you made a very good point about shifting from maybe a growth mode into a cost saving mode. And so those are all really important things. And one of the things that I've noticed over the years is that people usually associate efficiencies with I have to spend money, and if people are thinking they can't spend money right now, then that's a difficult position. But I personally have looked at solutions like this that have created very tremendous returns on investment, and we need to be looking at digital transformation from the standpoint of how are we going to improve our businesses and create a new environment that will allow us to operate in this new normal. And so I believe that digital transformation based on people, processes, and technology, are the cornerstones of success, going forward, because we need to leverage our people to the best of our ability. We need to, put in place digital transformations that are, improving our processes. And technology without application has no purpose. And so we have to reevaluate our businesses, and we have to bring in technology that will support our business goals and objectives. And I think that, you guys are doing a fantastic job of focusing on that and bringing those kind of things, forward to people. Hey guys, as we begin to wrap up this, I want to give each of you a last word and see what else you have to say. Larry, any more thoughts on what businesses can be doing in order to be able to optimize themselves at this time?
It's just really fun to me to watch the amount of innovation that's happened over the last, 50 days, if you will, or 54 days. It seems like every day there's a new idea or a new approach to help us get back flying again, and that's just really exciting. And I think it's going to continue to grow over the next 50 days.
Yeah, absolutely. Max, how about you? Any last words for us about the digital and about your company?
No, I was just saying that if to keep the optimism out there is digital transformation, it takes time to implement, right? So we're talking like 5 years, half a decade to a decade of processes that need to be implemented. So you need to think far into the future. If you really think too short term right now, you may be kind of dismayed because the situation is changing by the day. That's just going to stress you out. Think about digital transformation projects that's going to impact your airline or aviation sector product in a very long-term lens, and that should give you some calm. Like, what are the undeniable truths? And then work backwards from that.
Absolutely. Great advice. Hey, Max, if people want to continue this conversation or if they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so Ditto, our website is www.ditto.live. So you can find out all about our technology there, and you can reach out to me directly at max@ditto.live. So Max at our company domain.
Excellent. And you're also on LinkedIn as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Very good. So people can reach out to you, Max, at max@ditto.live or on LinkedIn or on your website. And that's great. And you'll be able to continue that conversation. For all of you that have been watching today, I wanted to thank everybody for participating and for being part of our program and our broadcast. Our big goal and objective here is to really focus on recovery in aviation and bring to you good information, valuable information, that you can use to evaluate your businesses and to be able to determine what can you do to engage and be part of an enthusiastic recovery in aviation. And so my big challenge to all of us as leaders is to be enthusiastic, be resilient, be out there, join the conversation, and let's be part of making recovery in aviation, our own responsibility, our success. Take command, take control, and let's go make this happen. I want to sign off today like I always do by saying fair winds and following seas, and I want to tell all of you to have a great day. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Max.
Bye.
Bye.